Welcome to UK Business Show. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions, helping business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, UK Kachidori.
Hi everyone, and welcome again to another episode on the Yokai Business Show. Today's episode is a very special episode where we are talking about money management. And on the show today, my guest is a gentleman who's been doing this, helping business owners and a lot of people over 30 years here in the United Kingdom, and Anton Bryan. Anton, thank you so much for joining us here today.
You're welcome, Yukai.
Incredible. People call you Tony. Is that the best way to go forward from here?
Yeah, I'm not posh enough to be called Anthony, so feel free to call me Tony.
Awesome. Now, I know you've been in the business as a financial planner and a wealth manager for 30 years plus, and you specialize in personal financial planning and tax planning. You do this as well, run your business called Wealth and Tax Management. Now, talk to me about this book you wrote in 2017, which you co-authored. I know you did another one before then.
Wealth Magic, I think you're alluding to.
Yes.
I self-published a book called Wealth Magic originally in 2011, and I've just updated it. It will be released very shortly, in the next month or so. The idea behind the book was because I've spent a lifetime, it feels like a lifetime, advising on tax and personal financial planning. You learn a lot over a long period like that, and I thought it would be worth sharing the gems I've learned over the years, tied in with existing up-to-date legislation and case law, and the feedback's been very positive, so I'm very pleased with that.
Incredible. And I'm so pumped that, our audience will be able to get access to that as well. Now, for those who've never come across your work, would you share or give us a little bit about your background in terms of your education and the whole experience you have in this?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing was, I was born to very humble beginnings. I was born and bred in the East End of London. And for our international listeners, that's a poor part of London, particularly when I was growing up there. So I didn't know much about money at the time, but my mother was very good with saving money. My father was very wasteful. He was the classic, what we call Irish navvy. He came over from Ireland, worked on building sites, and drank and gambled his money away, really. But so she had a hard time of it trying to save money up. But what I did learn while I was growing up was the virtue of saving money and making it work for you, because my mother was a great role model. So that's what, when I was at school, I was very good at languages, so I was a bit of a linguist, and I found maths very easy, and that it eventually led to a career I but only after I'd made the mistake of being an accountant first. I thought, well, accountancy, money, finance, I'm good at that, so I tried that, but unfortunately, I got very bored with it very rapidly, became the brunt of the Monty Python jokes, and eventually discovered financial planning. And I thought, that's it. I'm fed up with, being an accountant and recording history. I want to make history instead. My career in financial planning.
Incredible. And you've done so well, and you've worked with some amazing people to date and done incredible things. Would you share some of testimonials or case studies you've helped create?
Well, the vast majority of our people aren't what you'd call very wealthy. I think we probably deal with what you'd call the mass affluent, so people that are comfortably off, but not the multi-millionaires. I mean, probably the wealthiest client we've got is worth about 10 million, but typical clients are in the value range of about £1 million of assets. And the interesting thing is, the kind of people we deal with generally are not very high earners or high achieving career people, but they're just uncannily good with money. Because it's often said that becoming wealthy is not about how much you earn, it's about how much you spend. And the key is to spend less than you earn. I know it sounds incredibly simple, but the vast majority of human beings are incapable of spending less than they earn. because you need to learn a life skill called deferred gratification. So you spend maybe 90% of what you earn, save 10%, do that throughout your working life. Even if you're on the average salary, I've calculated you'll be a millionaire in investments doing that alone by the time you get to retirement age, just on the average salary.
Really? And we're talking of, the average about £30,000.
Well, £26,000 in England. Now, there is a book written in America called The Millionaire Next Door, and the type of people that are described in there are not your stereotypical wealthy people. The fact remains that people, like, for example, in the professions, doctors, accountants, solicitors, largely they have to keep up with the Joneses. So they've got to be like their peers, and so they end up with expensive houses, big mortgages, kids at private school, wife doesn't work, expensive car loans, and they're not very good at accumulating wealth. Whereas people in average jobs, your average Joe, who's good with money, will be skilled at not spending all of it and doesn't need all these flash things to show off with. And so the American, in the American book, the Millionaire Next Door, it pretty much explains the type of clients we have. It's extraordinary. I mean, one client I had, the maximum he ever earned was £18,000 a year. He's now worth 1.3 million.
Wow.
Mind you, he's in his early 70s. I've got a lady who's 49. She's financially free already, and she's paid her mortgage off. She doesn't ever need to work another day, but she just works for the fun of it. 49, and the maximum she's ever earned was £25,000 a year. So you don't have to be high earners. I've equally had clients earning six-figure sums a year and got nothing to show for it. They spend more than they earn.
Wow. So what is your role? How do you,
Well, what we do, we're kind of, if you think about it, we're really financial coaches. We're helping people make the right money decisions because people need guidance, because you get no real training at school or university in the great life skill of managing money. In America, you get fantastic actors and actresses who become bankrupt, and they've earned millions of dollars throughout their career, but have no clue how to look after it. So it's not taught very well. So we're really financial coaches. We're really about helping people save money, manage the money for them in investments and pensions. And we have a great focus on making as much of the money they save tax-free as possible. So we focus on tax-free investments like ISAs, they're called, individual savings accounts, and particularly pensions. We've been through our client bank and we've discovered that 85% of our clients' investments are tax-free. We're very proud of that because that's our focus. That's my accountancy background, because I was a tax specialist while I was an accountant, and I felt let's do, if you can save tax, your biggest cost in investing isn't the charges on your investment, it's the tax you pay. If you can minimise tax, you can save clients an absolute fortune.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Well, obviously, you are the man for the job. Let's dive into our topic that we want to talk about today, which is the mistakes that you see a lot of people make when it comes to financial planning, or they want to transition from not being very good with their money to actually being very, very good with their money. What sort of mistakes do you generally see people make?
Well, the classic one, I think, is living for today and just thinking that tomorrow will never come. But there's nothing wrong with living for today, because the opposite extreme is just as bad, where all you ever do is save. You don't want to be one or the other. You don't want to be a spender all your life or a saver all your life. You want to get the balance right. So the mistakes people make is spending more than they earn and think that it can go on forever. But if you're in a salaried position, you could be made redundant. And if you've got big overheads set up, the examples I gave you earlier of the professionals who have the expensive finance on their cars and big mortgages and school fees, they're very at risk of a redundancy and then got no income. So I do like the concept of multiple sources of income. If you can find ways of not relying solely on a salary, so if you can have other sources of income, and I do love the Robert Kiyosaki books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and other books that written in America in particular, because they're the best I find at writing these types of books, where they preach the benefits of multiple sources of income. So you might have, for example, a rental property with rental income. You might have investments with dividend income. You might have your own part-time business, typically network marketing. That only takes a few hours a week to do. I mean, you can do all kinds of things to earn extra income that doesn't rely on a salary. You could let out your spare room in the UK and get up to £750 a month tax-free. It doesn't have to be disclosed in your tax return. You can even rent out your car now instead of leaving it on a drive all day. You can there's all kinds of ways of generating extra income, so you're not reliant on that salary. Because I feel if you just rely on a salary alone, you're in a very dangerous position. People who are salaried, who don't have a business, they think they've got the safest position of all. I think it's the most risky position to be in these days, because job security is lower than it's ever been. And if you're relying on one source of income and that source of income's cut off, then you're really in big trouble. And a country you don't want to be in big trouble in with no income is America, because you can be rich one minute, you can be on the streets the next. And it does happen. Fortunately, in the UK, there's much more safeguards in place, much more of a social security system. But nonetheless, I mean, it does take a different way of thinking about things. But these people who think they're secure in one job, one source of income, they think I'm mad because I've got various business interests and lots of fingers and lots of pies. But I actually think I'm doing the safest thing because I can control my destiny.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And no one can control that for you. Now, having covered that one, is there any other mistakes you see that, especially those who genuinely wants to become financially free, but they make these mistakes?
Okay, the biggest mistake is not having a plan. Now, I would say this, wouldn't I? We are chartered financial planners after all, but you do need a plan and you need to stick to your plan. Now, what you've got to do is you've got to be prepared for all the hazards on the way. So if you want to build wealth, what could stop you building that wealth? Well, one thing could be ill health. The other thing you could, if it's for your family you're building the wealth, which it probably is, it could be early death. So why not insure yourself against these events? At least you'll make sure money comes in to look after your family when you're gone. I've already mentioned the multiple sources of income. Don't be reliant on one source of income. So you've got to have a plan and stick in a disciplined way to that plan. The biggest mistake people make in life is not using self-discipline and just going off at a tangent. I did know someone who earned a six-figure sum a year, had a £65,000 car allowance, and still at age 40 had nothing to show for it apart from a £20,000 overdraft. This lady had just spent, and she's got one job. She loses that job, she's bankrupt. So I think it's being sensible. I mean, I would say this, wouldn't I? But I think you should appoint a financial planner, because a financial planner is a coach who'll keep you on track.
Absolutely. And you've got that accountability going on. Now, if you've just joined us today, I am blessed really to have Tony on the show, talk to us about financial planning and the mistakes that often people make when it comes to financial planning, especially for business owners who really wants to get hold of their finances. Now, we talked about having a plan. If somebody hasn't got that plan, how would you advise them to go about creating a solid financial planning in 20?
Well, it starts off with the basics. You need to have a budget, a monthly budget. You could just use a spreadsheet. You don't have to have fancy software. Make a list of all your expenditure each month and break it down between necessities, the expenses you can't avoid. Your gas, electricity bills, your mortgage or rent payments, your food. You can't avoid these. These are necessities of life. Then, once you've done that, list all your, what I call discretionary expenditure, which is all your fun things, your entertainment, your holidays, and those kind of hobbies, all those kinds of things. Know what you spend every month. And then compare that to your income and work out how much you can save. I would recommend at least 10% a month savings. If you have a proper plan in place, then stick to that plan. Once you've set money aside to be saved every month, once it goes out of your account automatically, you won't miss it.
Incredible. Absolutely.
I know it seems incredibly basic and simple, but it really is that simple. I really believe that anybody in any income can be financially free before the normal retirement age if they just stick to being disciplined.
Incredible. Yeah, absolutely incredible. Really appreciate you sharing with that. Now, for those who are looking to get a financial planner, in your opinion, I know you've been doing this for a long time. What criteria should they use in identifying who to work with? Because there's so many of them now. You know this, Tony.
Well, I'm a bit biased, and this is UK biased advice, but you should be going for the best advisor. So you want to go for either a chartered financial planner, which is UK, or an international kite mark is certified financial planner. These are the best people you can go to. These people specialise in true financial planning, what we call holistic financial planning. They will give you a proper financial plan. We do ours to age 100, and it is fantastic because what it does, it shows people, it coaches people to never ever run out of money, because the number one fear with people approaching retirement is that they don't have enough money to live on and they may run out of money one day. So what we give people is massive peace of mind once we've got a cash flow forecast that proves they can never run out of money under different scenarios, depending on the lifestyle, what they want to spend. It brings into account windfalls, it brings into account bad things that might happen. For example, one of them might die early, one of them might have to go into a care home. So we can put in different what-if scenarios and plan accordingly. So that, I think, is the secret. And seeing a good advisor. Now, in the UK, you'd either rely on someone who can refer a good person to you, which is the best of all, word-of-mouth referral, someone who's already very happy with you as an advisor, or there are some directories, there are some websites like unbiased.co.uk or a site called Vouched For. You could go on those sites. There are also professional sites, professional directories for chartered and certified financial planners I would go to. Make sure the person you select does have the required knowledge and experience in financial planning as well as investment management. I think if you do that, you can't go far wrong. The standards are extremely high in the UK now, very high requirements for financial planners to be very well qualified and continue their education every year. It was called continuous personal development. So, and the ethical standards are extremely high. So, it's unlikely you're going to come across an advisor from that area who's of poor quality. Unlikely.
Incredible. Well, thank you for such an elaborate. Now, one of the things I know, Tony, you do is advise people on tax planning efficiency. And in fact, your company does that very well. Now, one of the things that you do is you help them get a better returns from their business bank accounts using sophisticated cash flow management software. Talk to us about those two things, maybe one after the other, a bit more.
Well, the cash flow planning software, basically, as I've mentioned earlier, it takes into account your income and expenditure from your budget and also your assets and liabilities, so everything you own and everything you owe. What you do is you put all these figures into the cash flow software and then you project forward how your income and expenditure might change in the future. And the typical time when it changes is when you retire. Because although many expenses will fall, other expenses will rise. Your leisure time expenditure will go up. Your work time expenditure, because there won't be any, will go down. So you've got to build that in. So if you can do that, I think you can have a great plan that you work with your financial planner and update every year. You mentioned cash management. It's not the main thing we do. If you're talking about cash management, do you mean bank account?
Yes, the business bank accounts.
Okay, well, yes, we can offer. We've got a particular service a cash management service where we can optimize the interest rates that companies earn from their bank accounts, because in my experience in the UK, most businesses, even with deposits of £1 million or more, are only earning 0.1% interest. Now, it'd be very difficult to get much more than maybe 1.25%, 1.5%. I know it doesn't sound like very much, but if you can get even 1.1% a year, and you can, well, that is going to increase your interest rate return by 1,000%. Why wouldn't you do that? And we've got software that allows us to find the very best deposits from 190 banks in the UK. And we can produce the results in seconds using this brilliant software we use. There are other products out there that can get you a better return than 1.5% or 1.25%, but they're not traditional bank accounts, and there is a higher level of risk, although I consider the risk fairly minimal in practice. But you can get returns in the UK still of between 4 and 7% quite comfortably, but there is a degree of risk involved. Therefore, you have to make sure you use the right advisor who can do much due diligence to make sure it's a good investment. But if you can get returns of several percent, it can make a massive difference to your bank returns, because too much money is wasted in companies that have just got millions sitting there earning virtually no interest.
Wow, and you've got clients that you're helping. You're doing such an amazing job with them. I remember we were talking about one of them earlier on before we jump on the show.
Yeah.
Would you share that experience very briefly?
Which one was that?
The lady you have helped, with there's more money instead of paying more taxes. But, you've helped a lot of business owners, instead of paying a lot of money unnecessarily, but managing their money. One of those examples you were alluding to. Okay.
Well, yes, we come across cases where businesses perhaps there's been a business sale, for example, and there can be literally millions of pounds sitting in the deposit account.
Exactly.
We had one case where it was 10 million plus, and the money was literally earning 0.1%. Now, that was bringing in virtually no money at all, and it did bring in a huge increase just for doing nothing, just from filling in a few forms. And we think that's quite critical. There's something else in the UK. In the UK, you have an investor compensation limit of £85,000. So if a bank goes bust, the first £85,000 is guaranteed to be repaid to you. It's insured, if you like. Well, part of our service isn't just to get better interest rates, but to diversify your money. So if you have, say, 850,000, you could diversify over 10 bank accounts. Now, you don't want to go through the hassle of doing that all yourself. We do it all for you. So we complete all the application forms, send it off to all the banks. You get 10 bank accounts with 85,000 in each. They're all totally protected. So if all 10 banks went bust, you get all your money back. I don't think a lot of people think about that way. Don't plan that strategically.
No, but that's where you guys come in to help individuals to see the other side of wealth management. Tony, as we come toward the end of our time here together, where can people find you?
Well, if they want to use us, they can come direct to our website, www.wealthandtax.co.uk. I also do a weekly podcast, which is in fact now on iTunes. So all you have to do is type in under the search bar in iTunes, Tony Byrnes View. That's BYRNE. I do a weekly podcast. I also appear on a local Milton Keynes internet radio station called MK Today, and my monthly interview, not weekly. My 3/4 of an hour monthly interviews are available there. We load them onto iTunes as well. So that podcast has only been going for 2 months now. I also do a weekly blog, and if anyone wanted to subscribe, they could do it through our website. Again, just visit the website I just mentioned, and if you're interested in a weekly podcast, lots of pearls of wisdom every week. I try to make it interesting because personal finance can be a dull subject to some people, but I've always found it very, very interesting and very creative how you can make money out of nothing. And I think my feedback I get is that people are very interested in that. So lots of ideas to help you, manage your money better and achieve that dream retirement we're all after.
Indeed. And that website, again, if you missed it, you'll be able to find it below this recording. And it is www.wealthandtax.co.uk. And again, we want to thank you, Tony, for being here on the show today. I'm sure business owners have a much clearer understanding of the mistakes that they potentially be making when it comes to their financial planning. And I was taking notes here, a lot of new discoveries as well. Any final words to our listeners today, Tony?
Well, you don't have to have a financial planner. You may want to do it yourself, but that's fine. A lot of people are successful managing their own money. But if you do need a steer, I do think it's a good idea to at least consult with a financial planner, even if it's just to have an initial interview, because most people like us will allow the first hour of a meeting at our own expense. Most financial planners would do that, so you've got nothing to lose by going along to see one. There was a study, there was a study by Vanguard into the advisor alpha of a financial planner. I mean, the added value they can bring, and Vanguard calculated it was worth 3% a year to the average client. Now, the average financial planner will charge 1% a year of the value of the investments under management. If the value brought, and it's not just in investment returns, this is in terms of tax planning, investment returns, financial coaching, make the clients do the right thing. If you add everything up, it equates to 3% a year. In my book, if you get a 3 times return on your investment, that's a pretty good deal. So we feel that's the value we bring to the party. People can not be keen on paying fees, but if the value you get back is substantially in excess of what you pay, in my book, it's worth it. And as a businessman, I've been willing to pay fees for advisors for many years in different spheres, because I figure that there's a lot more they know about their subjects, and as long as they bring value, then I'm prepared to pay the fee.
Absolutely, because the value will pay the fee for itself.
Exactly.
Indeed.
That's my view.
Indeed.
You guys, pleasure speaking to you too.
It's been absolute pleasure. We certainly will be in touch, maybe to talk about tax properly next time on the show, and really appreciate your time. Now, if you've been listening, you can check us out on www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com, or just go straight to yourkaibusinessshow.com and find more episodes, well over 200 now, episodes that you can tune in and learn a lot about business right where you are. In fact, anything you want to learn about business, we've pretty much touched one of those areas. We do like to say thank you for being with us here today, and we wish you a great day ahead. And talk to you again very soon.
Thanks, Yukai.
Thank you for listening to Yukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.ukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18, or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.